I was going to wear it to work one day and I feel, oh, that's too heavy. I'll get hot.
Okay, we're live.
Next zone. Hi, Jean.
Okay, it's 5:30.
What was that? He said, Gene, you're muted.
Okay, good. Okay, it's 5:30. I'll call it. All right, at 5:30, I'll call the meeting to order. You've got the meeting agenda. Number one, elect the chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. Do we know who were those positions last year?
Vice chairman last year.
I was secretary.
I'd make a motion to nominate Mike Franey as chair, PJ as vice chair, Diana as secretary. I'll second that motion.
I got a second. All in favor or any discussion?
I think you've all done a wonderful job in your positions previously.
Seeing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion
Mr.
carries.
Chairman, if I may interject, I was doing some research for this meeting on Tuesday morning and came across a code section that prohibits officers and employees of the state or political subdivision from being members.
Okay,
I was recently appointed the interim city manager for the city of Carroll. And as such, I would fall into that category. So I cannot legally be a member of the board.
okay.
But due to the short notice, I told John Worden that I would come to the meeting and advocate, but I'm resigning at my position because of this, and I will not be voting on anything tonight.
Okay, and you're taking notes, right? No, secretary, right?
Yeah.
Right, and I had no more friends, that's like short notice.
Okay, so we'll note that.
Will we have a quorum then? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7.
This does.
You be my top one.
There's
not
seven.
That's what I was thinking.
There's seven, right?
There's seven.
Two,
Missing.
and now we have three that.
Three, six,
So we got.
so we got four. We have quorum.
That's
Yeah.
So we do have.
I could have waited a little while to resign, I suppose.
Well, so,
Everybody else?
okay, so
I thought you.
I would just open it up to general discussion.
I point. I can't attend the
Well, technically, yeah, that probably would work, wouldn't it? Right.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Up until, right?
Yeah.
Until you see.
Until
The first no I get out of this guy. First time I have to, no.
he's starting off right.
He's gonna work well in this office.
Yes.
Really well.
Who wants to start? Jeff, since you're,
I would like to start.
quitting.
If I recall correctly, last year when we met, we were talking, I know the bill blue had a lot of impact and such. In the last couple of years, we had talked about the county attorney's salary and the sheriff's salary and so forth. I just went into the survey that Courtney sent us and looked at the 10 counties similar in size. We were ranked 31st, so I went up to 36 and down to 26 and looked at the salaries and such. And the average of that group was 112,379, and we're at 87.9. So I know that money's always tight, but I think this is still another year where we have to do something to try to get the county attorney's salary up where it's at least comparable and or competitive, because as much as we all hate to see it, at some point in the next 15 years, John's going to retire.
Sooner than that.
And I suspect that this might turn out to be one of those deals where he retires and we can't get anybody to apply because the salary's not competitive. And I don't like the notion of saying, okay, John, you did a great job for 20 some years, and we're going to pay the new guy more than you did on his very first day.
They can't do that though. The new guy comes in at whatever John is making until
Okay.
the next fiscal year.
Okay, but
So I'm,
you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, but yeah.
If we can get somebody to apply at that salary, and I guess that's my point. We're seeing it at the city right now with the comparability study or the compensation classification study, that since we haven't done it for so long and haven't kept pace, we've got some positions that are way behind and we're not quite sure how to get them there. And so that was just a point I wanted to make as we move forward, that wherever we end up tonight, I think we still have to pay attention, not just to John's salary, but everybody's, to make sure that we're competitive with the market. None of us wants to spend taxpayers' money foolishly, but at the same time, we have to be able to fill these positions with competent people. I would yield the floor for the moment.
Anybody?
I would agree with what, this temporary city manager is explaining, on the compensation.
Well,
board.
please say non-compensation board member, temporary city manager.
Right.
Yes.
No, it's been tough. There's been some things, last year, as you know, we did come with an unfunded mandate from the state of Iowa, called the Back to Blue, law, of which, at the time, well, our jail wasn't finished being constructed and hadn't been in operation yet. We are dealing with, I think, imbalances, definite imbalances between different offices and, so when you come to a meeting like this, I mean, you get to be the sole voice for an individual, but you also get to be the sole voice where, when you say, I don't want to spend county taxpayer money willy-nilly, I'm also going to be the one recommending that the county spend taxpayer money, quote, depending on the person's opinion, willy-nilly.
Mhm.
So we have some things. I know that the jail, as far as funding streams and things like that, I've had a nice review with my person with Sheriff Pingree, and this year the jail is projected to earn $600,000 in its first fiscal year, just from Polk County alone in housing those prisoners. Now that's obviously kind of an idea what the jail was meant to do, but at the same time, it doesn't have to. So it's going to generate roughly $600,000. We currently have a food services contract for people who provide food, and he's looking for ways to make that money become less of an expenditure to the county. And he's having his own staff clean it. I happen to have a nice tour of the place and the other day, and he wanted to show me the inside of a cell, and I really didn't want to go in. So, but they have brooms downstairs, and every time they get ready to start, this deputies clean up the squad bay or the car bay down there before they start a staff meeting. So, but yeah, I think there's going to be some requests for up, and I think we have to be at least open for the idea that there's going to be some variability. I don't expect things. I'm thankful that the supervisors did step up to the plate when they did and build a new jail for Carroll County, and quite frankly, built one of the nicest jails in Iowa. Although be it's a jail, I will need someplace to live in about 10 years. So, but yeah, I agree with Mr. Kaler on the idea of trying to get some of these salaries in line.
Diane?
There's not much more I can say. I mean, it's been an ongoing problem since I started here in 1977. So it's a challenge.
Chris?
What the previous board members have stated is true fact. I think that the two things that need to remain, in our minds, that we can't take these big leaps in one fiscal year. That's just not realistic. And I don't think it's responsible. The one thing that I do have a bit of concern about is the spread between the auditor, the treasurer, and the recorder. I'm not saying those offices are equal, but I think that difference from the auditor at 83 to the recorder at 73, with the treasurer about halfway in between, is too big of a spread.
Okay.
I mean, I certainly echo everything that they said. I mean, we've got great people in positions here in Carroll County. I represent Ashton Wittrock, who successfully ran a good election campaign, and overwhelmingly Carroll County told us that approved her for reelection, and I think that says a lot. And our office continues to improve in all the areas that they are responsible for. I too echo the reduce the gap. So all of us spoke. Obviously, with four of us, we all have to come to an agreement.
Right. And I'd like, if I may, I'd like to carry on, just go ahead and start with the wants or what I've been asked to put forward for the sheriff this year. As we know, last year we were knocked around with an unfunded mandate from the state of Iowa called the Back the Blue Law. We came to an agreement on what the salary would be. And we set that as a request. Now, quite frankly, it was an enormous request. And the supervisors met it, quite a bit of it, with a 15.2% increase on a 28% ask. When we go to the original salary of the sheriff and go back, it leaves us with approximately 12%, I think it's like 12.1% of the original ask left to be fulfilled, is how I worked my numbers there. And which would mean that I would probably be seeking a 12% asking for the Board of Supervisors to continue to consider and or fund the rest of the Back the Blue Act with the sheriff. As far as pay raise and or funding sheriff's salary, I believe that with the advent of inflation and the COLA requests, I feel like COLA, which is going to be 0.7%. So what is disheartening for me, but yet exactly my job, is to say, if I'm going to request the rest of the Back the Blue, even if the Board of Supervisors determines that they're going to fulfill that request over the next 2 years or something, I'm still requesting that they 100% fund the Back the Blue mandate and a cost of living increase raise for the sheriff this year, which is going to be unfortunately about 20 to 20.5%. That seems incredible. And that's since last year was 28. But at the same time, we did get a jail that has earned $600,000. We did get a jail that is generating income for this county, and it's a jail that's being run by the said sheriff above, who still hasn't lost any of his responsibilities. If anything, because of the size of the jail and the number of the inmates is getting busier. That being said, I think he made a point to me here that I'd liked is that the sheriff's office, jail, and the comm center have gone once again without accident or lawsuit. I don't want to say that out loud. Did I say that out? Anyway, I think that comes down to management practices. I think it comes down to the fact that we've had good luck with the situation and that the system in place is working. So, as far as the Back the Blue goes, I know that we've heard conversations about different things, but I feel like, the sheriff's office needs to have a good leader. And again, we need to be able to replace a sheriff. And any sheriff that's going to come into this county is going to have to be pretty good at what they're doing. And therefore the salary should be commensurate of it. Now, again, 8.7% on COLA, but the 12% is my recommendation for the Back the Blue for the rest of what would have been the full 28% funding of the Back the Blue last year. So it was been not 28%, but just the 12% left over. And And I feel like at this point, because the jail is making money and the fact that they could scale it back if they so choose and not make as much money with the jail, I feel like, well, there is no longer, well, still an unfunded mandate, but at least there's a funding stream that's developed to help with it. So that's currently my opinion. So I'm gonna be requesting this group of people consider that 12.7 plus the 8.7 or 12.1 plus 8.7,
So 20 and a half.
20 and a half. Thank you for clarifying my drivel. But that's kind of where I'm sitting and that's what I come presenting. It's the fact of the mandate that it always leads to a little disquiet, because it's interesting that somebody that lives not in Carroll County can pass a law that says Carroll County needs to be responsible for a series of funding. But yet at the same time, it's also a nationwide effort to support law enforcement. And I think we've seen it, and I think our supervisors have showed great restraint and or great support for what's gone on this board. I think we also want to see some things change. So, and that's where I'm going to stand, and that's what I will put forward when time comes.
Time might have come.
Yeah, I know, I don't, because I'd like to know what we want to do about these other offices. I mean, I'm not gonna motion just for my guy. I think the motion needs to come out. I think we should discuss what we want to do with the rest of everybody. Are we going to do a simple percentage point with the sheriff being a different one? Or are we looking at making different percentage points across the board for catch-ups and makeups? And because you could have, if we're gonna up the county attorney to a certain degree, that's more than 8%.
Well, quite honestly, I agree, and I caught this last year. Of course, I wasn't representing anybody except John, but some of the discrepancies between the offices, again, I'm not claiming to know what this value should be or this one or this one should be, but it appears that there's some discrepancies there. Likewise, as I mentioned earlier, when I was looking at the counties that are similar in size, and most of those don't enjoy the valuation that we have in Carroll County, we have fallen woefully behind in what we're paying our county attorney. And the job's not getting any easier. And I realize a lot of the customers at the jail are out of county, but we're putting a lot of our in-county people there too. And
Plus
that
other
that
counties.
happens because of the things that John and his staff are doing. I'm of the belief, and again, I don't get to vote, so I'm just talking here, but my belief is we probably have to look at playing catch up for the recorder and getting to where the law says we need to be with Ken and trying to get the county attorney's pay up. And then we have to fight the inflation battle somehow. I don't know how we do that. And like Chris said, we can't, we're seeing it at the city too, when they're saying we're this far behind, there's no way financially it can be done in 1 year.
No.
But we have to make steps. We have to walk before we run, I guess.
Crawl before we walk. Yes, sir.
Chris, I hear a lot of gears grinding next door.
A lot of
here.
gears grinded. Yep.
Find a gear and let's talk.
Yeah, I'm kind of still thinking about it.
Okay.
Diane, you got anything?
Well, last year I compared Courtney to the Manning City Clerk, the Carroll City Clerk, and the business, whatever her title is, out at Carroll Community School District. And doing that again this year, you know, she's still, the Manning City Clerk makes 84.5. The Carroll City Clerk makes 92.4. Courtney's at 83,229. Again, catching her up, and then COLA. I'm proposing a 20%. And that would take her to 99,874.
And you were at 20.5, is that right?
For what, Dan? I'm sorry.
20%.
It's a difficult thing. I'm glad we're talking about it,
Yeah.
at least.
And I don't know if Courtney sent anybody else this study out of Sioux County.
I did not.
You did not? Okay. Well, she sent me something out of Sioux County that compared, and it was done by a, Williams and Company PC. They're certified public accountants, but they compared the auditor, the treasurer, and the recorder's jobs on a purely empirical value. And their final summation was that the auditor's compensation should be between 2% and 3% higher than the treasurer's, and then allow additional monies because the auditor is the clerk of the Board of Supervisors, and they're saying that should be 2 to 3%. And that the recorder's compensation should be between 9 and 11% below that of the auditor. So, kind of tiers them. I don't know how that fits into what you guys are thinking or what, but just thought I'd throw that out there.
No, it's a empirical data that gives a rating
Right.
because when you try to compare, it's all fruit in the grocery store. We don't know what one's the apple, which one's the orange, and which one's a pear, as far as worth. And I certainly don't know enough of the inner workings of the courthouse to know, and that's why I feel like these meetings are good because our individual candidates contact us and basically say, hey, this is what I do.
Mhm.
And this is why I want what I want,
It's hard to get apples to apples.
because I
No
don't
one
think,
can say
We don't want
that
that.
every,
Well, we just can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not how that works. But at the same time, we try to be at least sympathetic and reasonable. And the rest of it goes to our Board of Supervisors who will have to live with what we recommend. So, and or decide what they want to do with it once we send it to them.
yeah. I guess what I think is, too, there's a lot of the counties in the state of Iowa that are auditor, treasurer, recorder paid the same.
there's a number of them that are,
I mean, the majority number of them all.
and I'm not saying it's right, Mike.
I don't know if it is either, but in Carroll County, we've got a big spread. And it wasn't created overnight, and we're not gonna be able to fix it overnight.
But with that number, and if you and I are, and I'll speak for you, Mike, if you and I are gonna try to fill that gap, we're above 20%.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's reasonable. Not saying they don't deserve it, but I don't think it's reasonable to come out of your recommendations in the 20s. I just don't. We need to take this a more systematic and chew away at this over 2 or 3 years. I mean, but again, that's my opinion.
Yeah, that's gonna be it's gonna be a tough to come to a consensus tonight.
Mhm.
With your, and John and Gene not here. We basically all need
Well,
to agree on something.
right.
Otherwise, we have to schedule another meeting.
Because Gene and John are the supervisors.
No, you don't. Once you have a quorum, it's a simple majority.
Yeah, but if we can't get to a majority.
3 out of 4.
3 out of 4.
24.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
No. Once you have a
Right.
quorum, it's a majority of those who are present.
I got you. Yep, that was my mistake. So now we just need 3 out of 4, so it might not be as tough, but it might be. I mean, I just compared, Ashton to the, a few things like the library director makes 86,000.
Actually, I don't think she's there. I think that's the top of her range. I don't think she's quite at the top of the
Not there
range yet, no.
This is a guy who just retired and I did the, not.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I don't,
Yeah.
I think could not find them.
the new one started at the bottom of the range, but in
I think she's at 84.
at 5 years, she'd be at the top of the range,
Okay.
or 6 years. It's a very difficult situation, and as Chris mentioned, it kind of goes back to the old saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
Time.
And we're dealing with an elephant in the sheriff's department with the county attorney, catching Ashton up, and then the inflation rate at 8.7%.
Well, and it's not only us dealing with that,
Oh, sure,
then it's the supervisors on top of that.
absolutely.
You know, if it was just us, it'd be one thing.
But I think we have to figure out some mechanism to take the elephant one bite at a time. We have to find some incremental way that doesn't put the supervisors in a terrible position. And it's like any negotiation, it's a good negotiation when both sides go away unhappy. We have to figure out a way to treat our employees fairly, while at the same time treating the taxpayers fairly. And I think everybody recognizes that the inflation rate's crazy big this year compared to normal. And unfortunately, we've fallen behind over the years. So now it's catch-up time. But what can we do on an incremental basis to eat the elephant?
Well, I don't know if I'm crazy enough to make a motion yet or not.
I think you are.
Yeah, wasn't it?
I guess
I
my
mean,
thing comes down to the fact that one of
Oh,
the
yeah.
things is that while this board meets and we can be conscientious about the needs of the people we represent, it's not like we can go and I can say, well, there was going to be a 28% request for a back to blue law. Could that have been done 7% a year for the next 4 years? I can't propose that because ultimately the board of supervisors would have rolled over, or there would be a new,
Right.
we have a new candidate coming on.
Yeah.
And so it's hard because we walk in here going, well, I need it to be this year,
Mhm.
because we don't know, how this board can just simply set a number for the supervisors to determine what they want to do with it. And sometimes I feel that makes us a bit toothless, but yet at the same time,
It does.
it is our absolute job to say, I represent so-and-so and I would like to see them get this.
Mhm.
And then the negotiation from there, then we put that negotiation in the hands of the supervisors. Which it's, unfortunately their job, and they're gonna be like, what are you guys saddling us with? Because I'm a civilian. And
Right.
I don't have profound experience in the finances of running county, nor do I expect to learn it in the last several years I was on.
Mhm.
and PJ, I think we've all kind of said this in one way, shape or form. Right now Lisa Wagner's the treasurer and I represent the treasurer's office. We're all representing the office
Mhm.
because sooner or later, somebody else is gonna be a
And that-
supervisor, the sheriff, the recorder, the auditor, the county attorney.
Right.
So this isn't a popularity contest. It's trying to make what's a fair and equal compensation by code and make a good recommendation to the supervisors can do more or less what they want as a whole, with the exception of themselves. So. I'm gonna see where this goes. I'm gonna make a motion to recommend the sheriff at 15%, the treasurer, the recorder, and the attorney at 12, and the auditor and the supervisors at 9%.
I've
And
got,
the only reason I used 8.7, 9. Easy figure. So. Sorry, Mr. Chairman,
so,
there's my motion.
got a motion, I need a second. Seeing no second, that motion fails.
Anybody else have something?
See, there.
I have one other thing that Courtney just reminded me of. She does the budget for the Board of Supervisors, and technically by code, the supervisors are supposed to compile their budget. So she's prepared a resolution that she would get paid an additional $3,500 to do that budget over and above whatever we recommend here. So basically, we would be recommending that the supervisors approve the resolution, correct?
Yeah, and it's a stipend.
It's-
It's not part of the salary.
Yeah.
But couldn't the Board of Supervisors go stipend whoever they wanted to do the budget?
They could,
I mean,
they could.
in other counties, they do that.
Yeah.
There's
So-
some
So why
people
does,
that-
So do we really need to do this?
I was told that it needed to come from the comp board because the comp board sets elected officials pay.
But this is not pay.
This is not a-
This is a stipend.
But it's gonna be part of my salary in a way. I mean, I have an auditor's salary and then I'm gonna have, in addition to that, $3,500 additional salary.
Didn't we have this last year, $1,000 or something, and it didn't get approved here, and then we thought it could get
Hmm.
after, and it couldn't, or?
Maybe it got talked about, but there's several counties that are starting to do that. And it doesn't have to be me. I mean, it could be anybody the board wanted to have do it. There's some counties that have budget directors, that's all they do, budgets.
But
So,
that's an important role. But like, if I'm not mistaken, Ken, you set your budget, don't you?
Yes.
I mean, all the departments set their budget and Courtney compiles them.
Courtney compiles and Courtney calculates the levies. And then, calculates the tax bills. And that's how the process goes. And technically, the supervisors are supposed to put together their own budget, as is Ken and you and Ashton
Every
and,
department's
supposed to-
responsible.
yeah. But the supervisors don't, they tell you what to do, right? And you kind of,
I'll work with them on their department's budget. But everybody gives their budgets to me and I plug everything in as a total.
so,
Um,
and that's the way it is in other counties too. I mean, that's just the way the process works.
Yes, good question.
Mhm.
On my sheriff, if 12.7% would be, or 12.1% would be the rest of the unfunded mandate,
Okay,
and we moved for a 15, that's not including COLA or anything else, but I don't know how to approach the unfunded mandate part of it. You know, I mean, more than what, you know,
PJ, here, and
I know
There
what
is
you said,
no-
but go, yeah.
there's no magic formula of the mandate. It's a bunch of calculations that Mike could calculate, I could calculate, Jeff could calculate, you could calculate, Ken could calculate, and they'd all be different.
Right.
It's not like it's a sheriff's got to get paid $10 per capita per county or whatever. It's about as gray and murky and muddy as there is. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong.
Right.
It's really hard to say, yep, that's what the back to blue should be for Carroll County. This is what it should be for Boone County, and this is what it should be for Ottawa.
Correct.
And if that's what the legislature was intending, they should have set up
They
a specific,
Because you could start comparing.
yeah,
I mean,
Specificity of the law just said of comparable rank of
Right.
state and federal.
and I just based my motion on kind of maybe a little bit of a compromise in cost of living
Right,
of some catch up and some of your discussion that I thought was more reasonable than 20.
Does anybody else have a
well,
thought process or?
well, I think Diane has a different feeling. I mean, obviously, she was at 20 as well.
mm. And-
Uh,
And I have a problem with the auditor at 9%. Because, you know, that's basically cost of living, okay? If the supervisors choose to cut, all of a sudden Courtney gets less than cost of living. They can do that to theirs. They can set their own at zero.
Right.
That's totally separate from
Yep.
what they do to the rest. But say, for example, they cut decide to cut everybody by 50%. All of a sudden Courtney doesn't even get a COLA,
Well, neither would the
and
others.
neither would the others,
Right.
right? So I have a problem with
But they
that.
could cut it to 25% if we go with 40.
Agreed, but the odds are whatever. But what I'm saying is I hate just going in at basically COLA for Courtney with that looming on the horizon.
You have an alternative suggestion or
The one I made before,
what was that?
20.
Oh, I was talking about all of
Oh,
Like
all of them?
the whole motion.
Yeah, that was my idea. Somebody else can get after it.
Well, I'd like to make a motion. I would move that the auditor be 10% or 10%, county attorney 12, recorder 12, sheriff 17, supervisors 9, and treasurer 12.
Say that again.
Yes,
Auditor 10, county attorney 12.
12, 17, 9, and 12. I didn't change anything besides my going for back.
So the sheriff 17.
Yeah.
But that 17 has, I mean, that's total.
That's total.
That's total.
That's a
No
total.
COLA or nothing, or, no
That's-
additional
that's-
COLA.
The numbers are the numbers.
Number for the
So
numbers.
basically, you just raise the auditor by 1%, the sheriff by 2.
Right.
Okay.
No.
By 9%, 9. So auditor 10, just so I have it written down right, auditor 10, attorney 12, recorder 12, sheriff 17, supervisor 9, treasurer 12.
Yes.
That look right?
So there's a motion on the table with sheriff 17, treasurer 12, recorder 12, attorney 12, auditor 10, supervisors 9. Looking for a second.
I'll second it.
Got a second. Any further discussion?
I have one thing. Did you guys discuss the stipend? Sorry, I didn't know if I heard that.
Oh, okay.
That could be in
Stipend.
a second. That could be-
That would be.
They didn't.
Okay.
Not
I
yet,
didn't
not
know.
yet, yeah.
We brought it up, but they haven't.
Any other discussion? All seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Okay, and then I'll make the motion that we approve a recommendation that the supervisors give a $3,500 stipend to Courtney, the auditor, for preparing the budget.
I've got a motion for a $3,500 stipend. Is that an annual stipend going forward or just for next year?
1 year.
1 year, $3,500 stipend. So that is a motion. I need a second.
I'm second the motion.
Got a motion and a second. Now I need discussion. I guess what I think, we just tried to fill the gap or reduce the gap, but now we just
Now
we just created it more.
We just expanded it more.
Okay.
And I think if the board wants to do it.
Hey.
I think they can do it.
Yeah,
And
the
in other
board
words,
do it?
Board of Supervisors.
If the
do
board wants to do it, they can pay somebody $3,500 to compile that budget. I mean,
No, absolutely not. If that was true, I could just set my salary and my budget and have the board approve that. No.
but they could go hire somebody, John, to $3,500.
You could hire somebody besides school. Yes. You cannot stop and say, oh, I do official about anything that the town board has.
okay,
That's cap.
okay.
Otherwise, you can imagine the shenanigans that go on.
Yeah.
I'd make Courtney my assistant. Because I like her a lot. Come on, you can't have that. You can't have that. It's gotta be.
All right, so I've got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Aye, nay.
So,
Motion dies.
failed.
Any other motions?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Could I just speak for a moment?
Sure.
Sure.
I wanted to thank you. I only had a couple of days, so I was able to find someone. The couple of people I asked, you not.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I am very, very pleased with your performance this year, your performance last year. I don't want to call bad history, but I remember some years where there's a lot of discussion about things that like don't have anything to do with your job. The code tells you what you're supposed to do. The comparables you're supposed to use. And I feel good about the fact that you've all thoughtfully looked at that. And I haven't heard comments like, well, you know what the job paid when you took it.
Mhm.
Okay, and I know y'all did this in good faith, and I want to give you a big thank you, and I think everybody else here wants to do that too.
Thank you. Okay,
Was there a second on the motion to adjourn?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
I've got a second. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
No,
Aye. All opposed, same sign.
I can't vote on that either.
Motion carried.
Okay.
did you second the
Thank you.
I
motion?
did not
No,
second
no, you
anything.
Are you black? No.
The other team was very. Sorry.
Oh, there's okay. And it's John.
I'm talking a long time ago.
Yes.
One day was not good.
They watched Wednesday. Super Bowl.
So you. Hey, it's kind of full on Monday. We're not gonna meet on Monday. We got a lot. So. Yeah, recognition like this.
Yeah. 27th at 9. Right here.
Yes.
Oh.
I do. The deputy told me.
All right, thank you. Fran.
My wife has
You're right.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, you know, all of a sudden, as they get older, which will translate their band, more, and all, and like, something, that this is not these out. But it is.
Thank you.
No, I mean,
Because I told the deputies, I said, don't leave a penny on the table. Don't leave a penny on the table. Yeah, I'll come back next year.
I don't know.
Unless you.
I did not. I've been recruited again and I said, no, go away.
Twice. Guys.
Thank you, guys.
I want the social security people for showing. Well, this year. The social security folks is going, say, you know what, give those people 8.7, that's all we pay.
No, Chad, I appreciate that, because this is.
If I can, I'm gonna get to know your brother, so his was Matt. And he
I know.
That's what it's like.
So, anyway, thanks, sir.
We are doing.